So Shabbat Shalom and welcome to the Finchley Progressive Synagogue's Erev Shabbat service. We're beginning with the lighting of the candles by Annabelle on page 69. Where are the candles? Oh, there. Amen. Thank you very much indeed. Psalm 95, Lechuna Ranana. Lechuna Ranana Ladonai Naria Letzur Yeshenu Nakadma Fana Betoda Bismirot Naria Lo Ki El Gadol Adonai Umelech Gadol Al Kol Elohim Asher Beyado Mechrei Haaretz V'toafot Harim Lo Asher Lo Hayam V'hu Asahu V'yabeshet Yadav Yatsaru Bo Nishtachave V'nivracha Nivracha Lifnei Adonai Oseinu Ki Hu Eloheinu V'anachnu Amarito V'tzon Yado Hayom Im Kolo Tishma'u. And if you find page 76, Shalom Aleichem, page 76.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Yi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Boakim L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Yi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Baruni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Yi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedkem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Yi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu.
It's page 90 from Psalm 93. We can read responsibly. The Eternal One reigns in grandeur robed. The world stands firm. Your throne is established from of old. The oceans roar, eternal God, the thundering oceans roar. You're greater than roaring waves, mightier than the breaking seas. Sure are the proofs of your power, O God. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad ishme'anu el hamiyuchad Adonai echad uv'shmo echad l'shem u'letiv'eret v'lit Hila lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki makor habracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machashava techila Lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitorori, hitorori, kiva orekumi, ori, 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 shedaberi. Kavod Adonai alayich nigla, lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha v'tzola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. The Baruch Hu, the call to prayer. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamavorach. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Le'olam Va'ed. Let us be seated. We praise you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe, whose word brings on the evening, whose wisdom opens heaven's gates, whose understanding changes times and seasons, and whose will sets the stars in their courses in the sky. You make day and night, rolling light away from darkness, and darkness from light. You make day pass and bring on the night, and separate day from night. You rule the hosts of heaven. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. We praise you, O God, whose word makes evening fall.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael,
Shema, the Declaration of Faith on page 94. If you wish to stand in accord with 200 years of liberal Jewish tradition, you may. If you wish to sit in accord with a verse from the Talmud, then you may also do so. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto La'olam Va'ed. V'havta eit Adonai Elohecha, B'chol levavecha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol mo'odecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, ולכתך בדרך, ובשוך בך ובקומך. וכשאתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לו תותפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Let us be seated and read together in English. All this we hold to be true and sure. You alone, eternal one, our God, and we are Israel, your people. You have freed us from oppressors and delivered us from tyrants. You led us out of Egypt forever to serve you in freedom. Then we witnessed your power, we praised your name and gave thanks. Willingly we accepted your rule. Then full of joy we sang together. אמר כי יפדה אדוני את יעקב ולא יהיה מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל יושבי תבל. We praise you, O God. May your sheltering peace descend on us and all who dwell on earth. And we now page 97. The Amidah is the standing prayer, so that's a clue if you wish to stand. שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Eternal God, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכה חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם, בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, בחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך על גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה המתים. קדוש אתה ונורא שמך, בין לנו אלוהים מבלעדיך. ברוך אתה אדוני, Ha'el HaKadosh. We praise you, Eternal One, the Holy God. Please be seated. We thank you, O God, for this Shabbat day, which calls us to closer communion with you. Though you are near to us at all times, you reveal your presence most clearly when we direct our thoughts towards you in worship and meditation. In you, our God, our humanity is exalted. You are our life. From you comes its greatness, its power, its beauty. Establish in us, we humbly pray, a devotion to you that shall be firm in all the circumstances of life. May this service renew in our hearts a sense of your presence and bring us peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. We're in the middle of page 100 with the three concluding thanksgiving prayers of the Amidah. The first, which is in the middle of page 100, was, of course, originally the prayer which talked about the restoration of the temple, cleverly squeezed in between the two mosques on Temple Mount, but now, of course, is now just a general prayer about worship. So a moment to read that, and then we'll read the Khatimah in Hebrew and English. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, b'yirah na'avod. We praise you, O God, whom alone we worship in reverence. Second, known as the Modim prayer from its first word, is a general thanksgiving prayer. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'el hodot. We praise you, O God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due. And finally, in this section of 3, a prayer about peace. Baruch atah Adonai, osei hashalom. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. And now a few moments of silence. There is a guided reading on pages 100 and 101 if you wish to use it. Yilratson imrefi, Yilratson imrefi, V'hegon libi lefonecha, V'hegon libi lefonecha, Adonai tzuri v'goali, Adonai tzuri v'goali. I don't know how many of you read the Jerusalem Report. If you don't, it's an excellent bi-monthly. Does that mean twice a month? Bi-monthly? Was that once every 2 months? How do you say once every 2 weeks? Fortnightly, thank you. Thank you. It's a fortnightly magazine on Israel and Palestinian affairs. I suppose you would say it's probably left of centre, but I'm not sure that's necessarily true. But it's a pretty good coverage of a wide range of topics, including politics and culture and the Arab world, all sorts of things. And a couple of weeks ago, you know, when you read something, you're not sure whether to laugh or to cry. Usually not very important. I mean, you know, if it's really important, you're not crying. You're either taking it very seriously or you're not laughing. If it's an important piece, you might be taking it seriously or crying, but you're unlikely to be laughing. But the piece that I was reading was about the kashrut authorities in Israel. I'm going to expand this in my sermon tomorrow, but suffice to say just for this evening that for all his greatness, or lack of greatness as you choose to define him, for liberal Jews, David Ben-Gurion made one great mistake as the first Prime Minister of Israel. He agreed to the status quo of the religious authorities of the day. So under the British mandate, Judaism in Palestine was Orthodox Judaism. Despite Mayor Elk being present, it was Orthodox Judaism. So when the state was established, David Ben-Gurion decided that one of the things he didn't really want to do, which I quite understand from a pragmatic point of view, was to take on the religious authorities. He was building a state, creating an army, creating a civil service, all the things that needed to be done. And so he left the status quo. And that status quo, never mind from our perspective, but from many people's perspective, has led to a system of, if I will be generous, I would call it outdated. And if I were less than generous, I'd be calling it corrupt or something worse. And the reality is that young Israelis, and not so young Israelis, who have no real affinity with Orthodox Judaism, find themselves in a position where they can't get married without going through some ridiculous process of the chief rabbinate. They can't be divorced either, particularly if they're women. And there are other, what I think are essentially coercive, if not corrupt practices. And perhaps the most corrupt of the lot is the issuing of kashrut licenses, where essentially, if you don't do what the chief rabbinate says you do, the kashrut supervision of your restaurant is withdrawn, and large number of Israelis used not to eat in places that didn't have a certificate. Well, two things have happened really. One is that some restaurateurs have become really fed up with the hoops and the costs which the chief rabbinate forces people to go through. Remember, this is a state-funded system, so all these people are paid by the state, but nevertheless, so the hoops and the finance is one thing. And the second thing is that what we would call liberal traditional kashrut authority has been established. And so despite the real efforts of the established chief rabbinate and its kashrut division, who by the way sell kashrut certificates, some of them, but nevertheless, to protect effectively their state monopoly, the new religious affairs ministry, which I thought had been closed years ago, which I thought was a celebration in itself, but nevertheless, the new religious affairs minister, whose name escapes me, but he's quite a traditionally minded former, I think, airline, fighter pilot or something, had a good military career before coming to politics, has insisted that the kashrut licensing system be opened up. So although the chief rabbinate in theory will have control, they will have to supervise this new private kashrut authority. And I noticed today, I even got into the Times, I don't know if anybody saw the Times today. I think I saw it in the Times today, or maybe it was in the Jewish papers, I can't remember. But such that one restaurant that went over to this new kashrut authority, paid for by the state, by the way, the religious authorities, the mainstream chief rabbinate, had put adverts saying this restaurant was open on Shabbat and therefore was in breach of kashrut license, even though it isn't. And I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, really, or be joyous, actually. Joyous that, for different reasons, somebody perhaps was prodding the state of Israel to become a modern liberal religious democracy, as in addition to a modern liberal political democracy. And who knows that the next thing somebody might think about doing is to think about how the effectively corrupt system of marriage and divorce works in Israel, and will offer both civil marriage and divorce, which doesn't discriminate against women for those who want it, and indeed will permit our rabbis to carry out, in a similar way to Orthodox rabbis, weddings and other functions. And tomorrow's, I haven't quite developed the full sermon yet. That will, as I speak, will develop, or maybe I'll write it tonight. But the Torah portion I've got to read tomorrow morning is about the Israelites going into the Promised Land, and they have to set up the Ten Commandments on tablets. Third set of tablets, by the way, because they're supposed to write them and put them on a mountain. And I was just reflecting on idolatry, and somehow whether or not, when you're a young state, or when you're a young people, you have to do things on reflection you wouldn't do if you had thought about it. So you have to put up a set of stone tablets, or you have to set up a corrupt religious authority. But as you mature, you actually have to have the courage to slaughter, to use an inappropriate metaphor, to slaughter the sacred cow, to take down certain edifices which you needed when you first went in. So that's just a little taste of what I'm thinking about I might develop for tomorrow morning, unless overnight something else takes my mood. But do look out for these articles. It's very interesting. And if it gets, I think it will get through the Parliament, or whatever it has to get system, it could be the beginning of the end of this really quite unpleasant for some people, and I think corrupt religious authority in Israel. And we who believe in the state of Israel and believe in it as a modern liberal democracy, we do find it challenging that on religious terms it's not a democracy, in the sense that not just to have an established religion. I don't mind that, you can argue that England has an established church, but it's not the only one that can do anything. And it's not that, it's not I would object to the state of Israel. I said Orthodox Judaism is to be our established religion because the majority of people, if that were the case, not sure it is, but if the majority of Israelis affiliate to it, or because even it's like the Church of England, it's our historic culture, but it shouldn't be one that gives overwhelming and overweening power and enables a form of religious corruption, not akin on what we see in other places in the world, but nevertheless disturbing enough for me to have a thought about it. Shabbat Shalom. We're moving to our concluding prayers, the Aleinu, and I think we have an Aleinu, yes? So I think it follows the page 520 Aleinu, but I'm not sure till we hear the music. But you're probably more familiar with it than I am, because I haven't been to a service in Finchley for quite some time now. Not because I'm unhappy with here, but I'm busy elsewhere. I have 3 communities to look after, so 3 Shabbatot I'm actually not in London. Well, I wouldn't be. Well, actually, no. Even with Zoom, I'm now back live in 2 of my 3 communities. So I think it follows page 520, but we'll hear the music of Dean as he leads us into the concluding service.
Aleinu leshabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו ליגד את שמו, ונור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ונור עלינו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים כמוני, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים נראה, ושכינה דודו ונופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. אמת מלכנו אפס ומקום, הכתוב בתורתו וידעתיו, והשם הודעת אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים כמעט ועל הארץ מתחתינו.
And we prepare ourselves to recite the Kaddish, a prayer which, despite its association with funerals and yahrzeits, was not written for that purpose. It was written as a prayer for when a piece of study was concluded. And maybe our lives are a study if we think about them long enough, but they certainly open with a chapter that we don't remember when we're born. And the appendix, if you like, is the life is a book. If we think of it as a book, is our death, which we don't come back to tell people about. And in between our life and between our birth and our death is this wonderful journey called life. Some lives are longer than they should be. Some are shorter than they should be. Some are filled with sadness. Most are filled with lots of joy and some sadness. But we together at this community think first this evening of Cynthia Elf, who died last night, the mother of Beverly Kafka, and of course of Rabbi Warren Elf. And we hope and pray, Beverly, that you will find comfort being with your community this evening. You who give so much to the community, we hope you can receive from us our love and our comfort. We also have yard sites this evening. We think first of Jonathan Greenfield, son of Jane and Gordon and twin brother of Simon. And again, we hope that you can find some comfort with us this evening and know that you're held in our thoughts and our prayers and our love, as you too, you three, your family, made such contributions to the community. And I see, turning back to the Kafka family, that Barry, it's your father's yard site, Frank. And I don't know how long ago it was that Frank died, but I hope you too will find some comfort, accompanied by your son and his partner in our community this evening. Of them all, we say, Zichronam Levracha. May their memories not only be a blessing, but inspire you. I know it makes you sad at this moment when you think about them, but be inspired by what they brought to you. And it's in that mood and mode, I hope, that we can together recite the Kaddish, which you'll find on page 524. Do you want to start or would you like me to start? Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba v'yalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael v'gala v'zman kari v'meru Yehei shemei Rabba mevrach la'olam ulalmei almaya yitbarach yishtabach v'yitpa'ah v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithada v'yitalev talal Shmei Kudisha Barichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechamata Ta'amiran balma v'maru Yehei shalom araba min shamaya V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Israel v'maru Osei shalom b'mromav Hu ya'asei shalom aleinu v'al kol Israel v'al kol b'nei adam v'maru Amen. May great peace descend from heaven and abundant life be granted to us, to all Israel, and to all the peoples of the world. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated for just a moment. In terms of announcements, Shabbat morning service is at 11. I should be taking the service. I think Franklin will be here to play the music, but we'll need you to sing if he's playing the music. At 9 o'clock in the evening, we have our Slichot service, where again I'll be joining Dean and Franklin and Rebecca, and we'll be joined by my congregations, members of Brighton, Three Counties, and Stevenage will join us on Zoom. And obviously, some of us will be live here. I don't know if there are any other notices I need to give. I think most of it's in the newsletter or the emails. Frankly, I'm in Nottingham for the Holy Day, so I don't know about the details, but no doubt you can find them if you need them. Is there anything else I need to say? So we're ready for Kiddush, shall we? Thank you. What would you like to do? Would you like to sing something yourself? Would you like to hear Dean doing Adon Olam? Dean doing Adon Olam. Can't he do Adon Olam? No. Okay, so whatever he's going to do it, yes? Right. Thank you.
Elohim Elohim Kesara Vikara Elelea Yevarechecha Adonai V'yishmerecha Ya'el Adonai panav elecha Lipunecha Yisa Adonai panav elecha V'yasem lecha shalom Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'el Adonai panav elecha Lipunecha Yisa Adonai panav elecha V'yasem lecha shalom V'yasem lecha shalom.
Evening Kiddush, page 564. ויחול השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחללים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.